12-year-old daughter came out as bi. Wants to keep having sleepovers with longtime best friend. If your daughter had an ulterior motive and wanted to have those types of sleepovers with her friend without you suspecting anything, it would have been easier for her not to come out. So on that note, she's at least trusted you enough so she can't perfectly get away with that. You could monitor them more, or cut their sleepovers shorter, or have one sleepover in a sleeping bag and one sleep in a bed. Also, it's best to figure out if your daughter has any interest in her friend. I was in a similar situation to your girl, but I didn't view my gay BSF that way, so nothing came of our sleepovers. Instead of taking away privacy, friends and so on, maybe talk to your daughter about sexuality, safety, consequences, about being able to talk to you, and maybe even your concerns. When I was a teen and my mom tried to make me end a friendship, I simply hid it from her. Luckily, it was a one-time event and I could be open with her. Create an environment where your daughter doesn't feel the need to hide stuff and explore something forbidden. Worst case scenario, it's not like she's going to get pregnant, right? I was the kid in this situation, and it never even occurred to me coming out that I wouldn't be able to continue hanging out with my friends. Just the insinuation that I would go so far as to have sex with my friends in middle school when I still hadn't seen PG-13 movies without them hurt like hell. It wasn't just that it felt like they didn't understand that I was trusting them. I was horrified that the first thing they thought about was sex. I absolutely understand the worry. But if she really intended to do something like that, she wouldn't take the step to come out to you. She came out to you because she trusts you and loves you. And now's a really sensitive time for whether or not that trust strengthens or breaks. Which sucks, because the right answers are different every time. But it's true. I had regular sleepovers with friends every few months since I was around 10. And after coming out, which was already rocky because I was stressed at it too, I was isolated quickly. I wasn't able to answer any of the friends I had grown up with when they asked me why I suddenly wasn't allowed to stay over even in groups. As teen girls get cliquey over time, I ended up left out of not just parties, but almost every other out-of-school gathering BC of how worried my parents were that I'd engage in sexual behavior. If you're worried, I'd recommend her only having friends over at your place if you don't know the other parents as well. And there's never any harm in peeking in a little more than you would have otherwise, as long as you aren't tipping her off that you're worried about NSFW actions specifically. I'm bisexual and 20 now, and as a result of my parents' distrust and weird focus about how I saw my friends, I've never once been open about my relationships with them. I'm currently in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend of 2 years. And they don't even know his name. I kept my friends away from them because I already didn't like that they saw me that way. I saw you also bring up that your kid's friend is gay. Keep in mind that if you bring up worries around her engaging in more inappropriate things because of her orientation, her friend may also feel more uncomfortable around you. I understand the worry around your daughter being in same-sex situations when she's out as bisexual. But she's still a kid. She'll grow up in areas surrounded with other girls, and she's been raised to see those spaces as normal ones, not ones with any sexual subtext. With the school locker room situation, I pretty much just hid out in the corner because I was terrified anyone would think I was looking at them, plus I was self-conscious. I have other LGBT friends who just changed normally BC. They didn't care about anything except just changing and getting outside. I am so sorry for rambling. But my parents' overreaction around sleepovers and hanging out with my elementary and middle school friends was one of the moments my relationship with them changed permanently. This is definitely a tough situation and I'm so sorry. But your daughter just put a huge amount of trust in you. It sounds just from that alone and you coming here to ask that you're a great father. When you're queer in middle school, you tend to gravitate towards other queer people to be your friends because you don't feel judged. And you relate to one another. That doesn't mean you like them. These kinds of things feel frustrating when you're bi because you can't hang out with guys without relationship rumors. And you can't hang out with your female friends, frequently other gay girls, because of relationship rumors. If they've been friends since at least 7, it's pretty unlikely they like each other. Okay, I like lists and summaries. So here's mine. I warn you, I'm going to unpack this fully, and in ways you might not expect. 1. She trusted you enough to come out to you. Don't punish her for it. That's how she'll see it if you stop the sleepovers. Even if you don't, you're not going to convince her otherwise. Because she'll be right. Point 2. Queer people don't just have sex with anybody they can. We have personal tastes just like straight people. The likelihood that your daughter and her best friend are mutually attracted to each other is low. And even if they are, they may not even want to do anything that could risk losing the friendship if they decided later it wasn't for them. Point 3. Sleepovers are a normal part of growing up. You're only young once. Taking that away from her is just a dick move and will lead to her resenting against you. See point 1.4. Even if they are going to do sexual stuff, and that doesn't necessarily mean sex, it's certainly safer than if it were with a boy. No chance of pregnancy. And given their ages and presumable lack of experience with others, and almost zero chance of STDs. Point 5. Even given the nearly non-existent risks in point 4, and the nearly non-existent chances of them actually having sex, as in point 2, you can take the time to educate your daughter on safer sex practices. Queer women have strategies too. Dental dams for oral sex, gloves for manual, and condoms for dildos, strap-ons. Point 6. Further to point 5, if they're going to have sex, they're going to find a way to have sex. Stopping sleepovers isn't going to prevent that. It's better to let them do it safely under your roof than push them into doing it in riskier environments where they might be subject to sexual harassment or assault if caught. Or in the case of your daughter's friend, homophobic abuse should she be found out by her parents. Point 7. Worst case scenario, if you let them keep having sleepovers, they have sex in a safe environment. Your daughter gets to explore her sexuality and the perils of healthy romantic, sexual relationships. With your support and supervision. The latter hopefully not literally. Should the incredibly rare chance something actually goes wrong does happen, your daughter likely feels safe turning to you for help. Point 8. Worst case scenario, if you don't let them keep having sleepovers, they have sex behind your back. In potentially unsafe circumstances, they get caught by unsavory people who react by committing violence against them. Potentially sexual violence, so-called corrective rape, is a thing done to queer women. Meanwhile, your daughter no longer trusts you, so she doesn't turn to you for support, and doesn't get adequate support elsewhere. Now, let's reframe this a little bit here. Stop thinking of sexual exploration as a bad thing. Kids explore their sexuality. The fact that your daughter is 12 doesn't change that. It gets more likely and at higher levels as they get older. But even babies are known to masturbate, not because they're aware that it's sexual, but because they discover it feels good. Meanwhile, we tend to feel the urge to prolong a child's innocence for as long as possible, leading to unhealthy behaviors in adulthood. This has a real impact on managing relationships and even marriages. So this is really an issue about why you're uncomfortable with the idea that your daughter having sleepovers with her best friend might lead to them having sex. We already established that that's not the case. If they're going to have sex, it's not the sleepovers that will cause it. You have been subject to social ideals and pressures. See, innocence. That don't necessarily have a basis in reality. You have internalized them and you're now projecting them onto your daughter. As I've already said, this can lead to unhealthy relationship dynamics later in life. I'm assuming that, as a loving, supportive parent, you don't want that for her. The smartest thing you can do right now, instead of falling prey to that parental instinct to shut down any possibility of her having sexual activity, is to instead ask yourself why you are uncomfortable with the possibility. Unpack that, and then deal with it internally without letting yourself project that discomfort onto your daughter. And then if you really can't let go of it, at least get yourself comfortable with feeling your discomfort. Both me and my best friend are bisexual, and we had sleepovers constantly as teenagers, and even into our 30s. And nothing ever happened. She was my best friend, and our love for each other was more like sisters. So sexuality never came into it. Your daughter trusted you enough to come out, so trusting her back is the right thing to do. Don't stop the sleepovers. Just keep a close eye on them. Please allow your daughter to continue hanging out with her friend. If she wanted to do something sexual with her, she would have done it without your permission and knowledge already. If this is your standard, then your daughter will never be able to have sleepovers with anyone as she grows up, which feels very unfair. It's almost like a punishment for being honest with you. My sister is bisexual and my mom banned her from sleepovers with anyone after. It really destroyed trust between them, and to this day my sister resents how my mom acted when she came out, assuming that she was going to sleep with everyone and anyone. Have a little faith in your daughter. She trusted you, maybe give her the same in the return. So is she just never supposed to have sleepovers ever again? You want to teach your child that being herself will have consequences from those she loves? Slow clapping. She's gonna do it either way, so you might as well trust her and have her and her friends be in a safe environment that is your home. I'm a teacher, and usually when you take these types of opportunities away from them, they'll just find a way around it and potentially put themselves in more uncomfortable situations. I am a lesbian. As a teenager, I had tons of sleepovers and pretty much all of my friends were queer. At that age, I thought I was bisexual. The only time anything inappropriate happened involving me, it was with a guy that my parents didn't even know existed. Trust me, if she wanted to explore her sexuality with her gay friend during these sleepovers, she wouldn't have come out to you when she did. That's not to say she'll never explore during sleepovers, but wouldn't you rather she do that with someone she trusts in a safe place? If she had told you she was a lesbian, would you suddenly be fine with sleepovers with boys? Banning all sleepovers will just make her feel punished and isolated. It is absolutely the wrong move. But the reality is, your daughter just came out now, and you've known about her friend's sexuality for the past 5 years. Some point between 5 years and now, I'm sure your daughter realized she was bi, and for the time between then and now, they were having sleepovers. At any point within those 5 years, they could have already tried doing something. It wouldn't make sense to suddenly ban sleepovers just because now you're aware of her being bi. Because she was bi before last week, and potentially for a while. In other words, what does it really change by you now knowing that she's bi? She knew she was bi before you did, and they had sleepovers before you knew. Hey, parent of a 15-year-old chiming in. I am late to the game and not sure you'll see this. Today's kids have changed, and in my opinion for the better. Recently my kid, who is a male, mentioned that his friend, Jane, often joins him with Jacob at their slumber parties. I did a double take and he rolled his eyes. She is a lesbian, mom, and what would it matter even if Not, "You raised me better. That was life-changing for me." He is right. It wouldn't matter if she wasn't a lesbian. I've taught him safe sex and open communication. Several of his male friends he grew up with are also bi. I've never blinked at them coming over. Because I view them exactly as our kids view their friends. They are family and it's fine. And if something were to happen, likely not since our kids are so much smarter these days, they would make responsible decisions. I hope this helps you gain perspective. Having sleepovers with their friends is a normal thing kids do. Denying her that because of her sexuality seems really unfair to me. If you don't let her, she'll probably regret coming out to you and maybe resent you for treating her differently because of her sexuality. You, HighOnTums, suddenly setting boundaries and rules about open doors right after she came out to you is, in my opinion, absolutely the wrong move, and will likely be interpreted by your daughter as that you don't trust her. If they really want to do something together, do you think an open door policy is going to stop anything from happening? Will you stay up all night guarding the door? Will you forbid them from going to the movies together? From visiting the bathrooms at school? You're not going to stop anything by being a dictator, or by making up rules out of mistrust. And instead it is going to push your daughter away from you. What you should do, and you should be doing this regardless of her orientation, is to talk to her about how her body works, about love, and about consent. Make sure that she knows she can always say no, that she should never feel forced to do things she doesn't want, and that you won't judge if she comes to you with problems or questions. Make her confident enough to choose her own pace, rather than uncertain and without parental trust. Because even if you manage to prevent anything from happening now, and good chance she doesn't even want anything to happen yet, in just a few years she's likely going to have her first sexual experiences anyway. And whether that's going to be at 14 or at 19, you'd better make sure she is comfortable with herself and knows her boundaries, and knows that you'll have her back. She can then decide for herself when she is ready. And most teens really don't feel ready for anything at the age of 12. It's far more likely they'll just be shyly discussing their crush rather than doing anything physical. Because the alternative is that she'll be repressed, taught that if any doors are closed then forbidden things must happen. And she may well be pressured into a horrible experience when she first goes out on her own. Stopping the sleepovers will just teach her that confiding in you is wrong, and it'll result in having her time with friends taken away as punishment, and also that she should be ashamed about being bi, and that you're sexualizing her. Are you going to have your kid banned from having friends sleep over ever now, or what? That's probably not the best course of action. Don't punish your child for feeling safe enough to come out to her parents. Your instinct to stop your kid from doing something she enjoys and other kids get to do because she came out is absolutely a reason kids hesitate to come out. Doors open or sleepovers in the living room are reasonable as long as those rules apply to all her friends, not just the ones you know aren't straight.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.